So I thought it'd be fun today to kind of go over exactly how I came up with and why I came up with the idea for my podcast, Quotable History. I've always had a love for history since I was a small child. When I was in third grade, they had a way of teaching history at the school that I was attending where we would go through an individual life who was very important in American history in particular. An entire unit would be just on that person. Now, you may have serious disagreements with exactly teaching history that way, but for me, that was a very engaging way of how history was taught. And I felt like really connecting with these people, connecting with the people that were being talked about on a very personal level was something that I thought was super cool. History would always be a subject that I would really love, something that I really excelled at. When I was in 10th grade, though, I had a teacher who was really passionate about history. He had worked in the corporate world for 30 years or so and was doing this kind of before he retired. Every day before he got into the main lesson of class, he would go over a quote of the day. Now, this quote was not always from the lesson. A lot of times it was actually just something that he wanted to talk about or something that he was really passionate about that particular day. But he was consistent with it. He also showed great passion in whatever he was talking about. That really stuck with me as somebody who really loved history, as somebody who really found it, who was very passionate about it, who found it very interesting. When I got to college, what I kind of realized is that the history as an academic subject, history within academia, I feel like has become very systematized. It's no longer about the passion or the human nature of everything or the stories that are involved in history. A lot of times now, at least in my college, history was all about kind of looking at everything through the lens of systems. It was very cold and very academic. It was all about processes. I think a lot of our teaching of history now is not really relatable to a lot of people because we're not able to tell more of the personal side of history. And yes, systems are very important, and we talk a lot about systems in my podcast, but I think it's good to have the stories to relate to because history in its very essence is human. So I started Quotable History to really recapture that love and to really hopefully let us have deeper conversations around these quotes. I remember I was in this group and a lot of times we would write encouraging notes to people. That was the entire club in college. And a lot of times people would do this thing where they would write a historic quote or they would write an inspiring quote, but they had no idea who said it. They had no idea the history behind it. They had no idea the story behind who said it. And so I really will say I got this idea from my teacher, but I also too just want us to have better conversations about history. I think our historic conversations are lacking nuance. I think that they lack a lot of depth. So I really hope that this snackable size content, this content that is not too intimidating, it's not like Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, which is a great podcast, but it's really, some of his podcast episodes are like 6 hours long. And so I really hope that this podcast, that my podcast, can be a place where people who may not always like history or may just find some of these long conversations about history not something they're very interested in. I hope that you can listen to my podcast, which is generally around 20 minutes in length, and really take away something from it that you maybe didn't know before. So with all of that being said, don't forget to listen to Quotable History with new episodes every week. We drop new episodes on Tuesdays. If you're interested, please subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your podcast. I hope you'll check us out, and I hope that together we can start having more nuanced, more intelligent, and deeper conversations around our collective historic narrative. See you then.